here I am, and I'm going to tell you my birth story.
I know it's a bad story. It's a bad story.
So I want to start by saying that when people have a baby, they post a picture on Instagram and they're like, everything went great. Mom and baby are both happy and healthy. And the truth is that like labor and delivery is legit harrowing and insane. And as a friend of mine says, basically should be illegal. So yes, I'm happy and healthy, and the baby is happy and healthy. We're doing really well. He's now 3 months old. First of all, I had to be induced because I had gestational diabetes. So I was induced at 39 weeks, 1 week early. I was not super psyched about getting induced. I don't even know how I felt about it. And now I'm like, oh, that's just what happened. I had feels about it at the time. Basically, my doctor had told me, like, yeah, you're going to be induced on this day. They can call you starting at midnight, like as soon as the clock struck midnight. And they called me at 2 a.m. Now, if I did this again, I would be like, okay, no, I'm coming in at 8. We had an hour to get there. Chris went and took a shower, and as he was coming out of the shower, he started talking to me. Actually, he started talking to the baby in my belly. Like, oh, I can't wait to meet you, blah, 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 something really sweet. And we have this giant mirror in our house, and it literally came crashing down on his back. So that's sort of how things started. We got to the hospital. I basically had not progressed at all. I was like closed and tight, as they say. So not a face, not open. I was like not really ready to have the baby. At least my body physically wasn't. So they did a round of Cervidil, and Cervidil is basically the cervical ripening stuff. It's basically like a tampon kind of. They put it up your vagina, and then you sit there for 12 hours in a hospital bed, and you wait for it to do its magic. And I had been told that it was really unlikely to cause much pain, maybe some cramps. After like 4 or 5 hours, I was in like excruciating pain from it. I started feeling like these cramps. And now that I've been through the whole labor process, I see that it was basically like having a contraction with no break. And we had a doula on call, but the doula was out of town, of course. And so we had these backup doulas, but we didn't expect the Cervidil to be bad at all. And I was literally walking around the hallways of the hospital, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. This is like the very beginning. This is the most pain I've ever been in, ever. But the nurse of ours was like, hey, like, you're in a crazy amount of pain that's not really normal, and you guys have a doula? Like, why isn't she here? And we were like, we didn't know we were supposed to call her. And basically, as soon as I learned from the nurse that the reaction like wasn't normal, and yes, I really was in this crazy amount of pain, I relaxed because a lot of it was mental, and they decided to pull the Cervidil a little early, so it was supposed to be 12 hours, and I lasted maybe 10 hours. So they pulled the Cervidil, and then they checked my cervix. And my own doctor happened to be there, and she came in to check my cervix, and it was the most, like, violating and horrible experience ever. She basically, like, I don't know if she has, like, little hands or I have, like, a super high, like, narrow vagina, whatever. But she was, like, up there, like, seriously, and she had to do it 4 times, and I was like screaming in pain. Like, it was absolutely horrible. And I'd had some other cervical checks from other doctors that were not mine, that was not painful. So I don't know if my doctor had it out for me or what. Chris claims that it wasn't like intentional, that she was hurting me. I'm still like, that was like really bad. And anyway, she checked me, and she was like, well, you're, I don't know, some like pretty effaced, maybe 70% effaced, and you're about 1 centimeter dilated, maybe like 1.5. And then she was like, you could be stretched to 2, which is like maybe what she was doing up there, which is like not great. She was sort of like, okay, you have 2 options. You can do another round of the Cervidil, or you could start Pitocin. Then she left. And then a nurse came in, and I really didn't like her. But she was like, you should definitely do the Cervidil. Like, blah, 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 Cervidil, blah, blah, blah. She was like a mean girl in high school. Like, her opinion was what mattered, and she wasn't listening to me. I was like, but the Cervidil was so painful, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, just do the Cervidil. The Pitocin's going to be worse. The Pitocin's going to be worse. The Pitocin's going to be worse. And it scared the shit out of me. And then another nurse came in, and she was like, I really think you should do the Pitocin. Like, you might as well. And I was like, but it's going to hurt. It's going to be worse than the Cervidil. And at that point, she was like, you're having a baby no matter what we do, it's going to hurt. And that was like a come to Jesus moment for me because I was like, shit, I am not getting out of this without an excruciating amount of pain. So at this point, we're like 12, 15 hours in. Look at how cute he is, though. I mean, he's the result of all of this, but anyway, the nurse who had suggested the Pitocin was like, actually, your doctor thinks that you should do the Pitocin too. Even though she'd come in earlier and been like, nah, I don't know, you can choose. But then she came in again and she was like, no, you should do the Pitocin. And so they talked about how they do the Pitocin. They don't just like ramp up the Pitocin. They start like a little Pitocin, a little more Pitocin, a little more, a little more, a little more. And so they started upping it. And I wasn't in that much pain. Like I actually slept a little bit. At this point, it was like 9 p.m. maybe when they started the Pitocin. I maybe slept a little bit, but I woke up at like 1:30 or 2 a.m. with like freaking crazy ass contractions. Like I was on this birth ball, leaned over like this, going like, like literally animal crazy sounds coming out of me that I did not even know I was capable of making. And Chris was there and he was like helping me, but I'm sure he was terrified because I was like, nah! And the doula had gone home and basically said, hey, when you start having contractions, give me a call and I'll come back. So Chris called her. And at that point, I think I took a shower to try and, I mean, it was just like a disaster, really. The doula came, she took one look at me and she's like, it might be time for the epidural. And I was like, yes. Because I was just in so much pain at this point. It was like 3:30 or 4 in the morning. So the anesthesiologist comes in. It was this really nice guy. And I was like, you're going to be my best friend. You're going to provide me relief. You're going to be my best friend. And I was like leaning over like this. I was literally 1,000,000 degrees. I must have been like 107 degrees, I swear. I was like a zillion degrees. And I was leaning over like this and it was taking forever. And I was like, something's not right. And he kept trying and he kept trying. And I was looking at Chris and I was looking at the doula and I was looking at the nurse. And I could just tell like it wasn't going well. So he finally seemed to get it in. And then he was like, okay, I don't really think it worked. You have a very difficult back. Which is pretty much the worst that you can hear from an anesthesiologist. And he's like, hopefully it worked. Let's try it. And so they like injected the epidural medication. And they took this little like alcohol swab and they were like, okay, can you feel cold here? But not here. But you can feel cold here, not here. And I was like, no, it's cold in both places. And it did take the edge off of the contractions a little bit, but not enough. But the experience of doing this and trying to get the epidural was so traumatizing that I was like, I need a minute before we try again. And the anesthesiologist was like, look, you can... I can do it before my shift's over. That's at 7:30, or you can have the next anesthesiologist do it. And I kind of tweaked out because I was like, maybe he's a shitty anesthesiologist. Like, maybe he's not even good. And so the doula suggested that we ask the nurses, well, should we go with him or should we wait for the next person? Like, who's the better option here? And the nurses had a little powwow about it. And then they came back and they were like, definitely him. He's like the best guy that we have. He has an idea of doing some crazy approach to get in your back and give you the medication. So we were like, okay. So the second time he came in, I was like, I really, really want you to be my best friend. Please don't let me down like you did last time. I actually said that to him. And he sort of laughed, but I was like, no, I'm serious. Anyway, so he put it in, and that time it worked. It, like, basically took away the pain of the contractions. At that point, it was like 8 in the morning. I was able to rest. I wouldn't let anybody check my cervix until I had the epidural because it had been so painful the night before. So once the epidural was on, they checked me, and I was maybe like 3 centimeters, 4 centimeters, something like that. And basically, I was able to chill out for most of the day. At some point in the morning, maybe around 11 a.m., my water broke on its own. And things were progressing, and they would come in and they would look and they would be like, okay, yeah, I think you're 6 centimeters. Or they know. They weren't saying I think. They were like, you're 6 centimeters now. And I kept progressing and I kept progressing and I kept progressing. And then at like maybe 4 or 5 p.m., I started being in like excruciating pain in my back and through basically my whole pelvis. And we had the other anesthesiologist come in, and they're like, you're just gonna have some breakthrough pain. Like, you're gonna feel everything through your pelvis. Sorry. And I was so thirsty, and I was so hot, and I was in so much pain. But I was fully dilated, or I was very close to being fully dilated. I was like shaking like a leaf, which freaked Chris out. But the doula was like, it's normal. She's in transition. I was just like in so much pain. I was not even on planet Earth. And so the baby was descending, and at like whatever, they're like, okay, you're 10 centimeters. It's time to push. And I seriously never thought I was going to get to the pushing stage. I thought that I would have a C-section way earlier in the process. And I remember looking at my doula, and I was like, I don't even know how to push. I never even read anything about pushing. How do you even push? What's even going to happen? How long is it going to take? Like, what? And I was in so much pain too. And she was like, well, like, it might take 3 hours, so let's prepare you for that. And like, she gave me some tips, I guess. I'm basically pushing like I was taking a giant poop. And so I started pushing. It was really, really painful. I just like felt, I don't even know what I felt anymore. But I don't know. So I was pushing. And then like I guess I pushed for like, I remember like halfway through pushing, maybe 45 minutes in, I was like, I can't do this anymore. How long is this going to take? And the doula was like, hey, I told you it might take 3 hours, and it's been 45 minutes, and you're doing really, really, really well, but like, it's still going to take some time. And I was like, no, I just want to be done with this. This is so awful. Because at that point, my epidural really wasn't doing anything. Eventually the room like became a flutter with people. Like, some doctors came in and introduced themselves because clearly I was getting close. And eventually, like, I guess he was descended enough that a real doctor, well, like the doctor that delivered him, came in and was like, okay, push. And at the very end, like, I guess as he was coming out, she was like, okay, his heartbeat is dropping a little bit. Just get the vacuum just in case. And when she said that, I started getting like really angry. Oh, also I should mention that the way I was pushing was like, there was a birth bar like this, and I had my legs up like this with like a scarf like this, and I was like, eh, and I was getting so angry. It was crazy. Anyway, so yeah, she had said, oh, maybe his heartbeat's dropping a little bit, get the vacuum just in case. And I heard that, and I was like, no, we're not going to the vacuum. And I like pushed very angrily and as hard as I could. And at some point they were like, Emma, reach down and you can feel your baby's head. And like, it was this spot right here, and he had this like really long hair here, and I felt that. And then I like pushed, and I pushed him out, and then they put him on my chest, and he like came out of my vagina, and then they were like, and he was like up here, and his little face was like looking up at me, and he had like one arm up like this, and he was just like swimming up, and he looks like the cutest little frog, and he looks like his dad, and it was just crazy. And I feel like I was exclaiming, oh my God, there's a baby, there's a baby, there's a baby, there's a baby. And I don't know, they do this golden hour thing where he lays on your chest for an hour. They like tried to breastfeed, I guess. Breastfeeding never worked, and it didn't work then, and it was like so ridiculous, but whatever. And then he was out. And I say it now, and it just sounds like anybody else's birth story, because every mom has to go through this. And I do have to say that, like, afterward, I looked around at every woman that had given birth and was like, holy crap, I can't believe that you did this. And I looked at women that had multiple kids, and I was like, I can't believe you did this once and then signed up to do it again. You're certifiably insane. I felt that way for like 2 or 3 weeks. Like, I would never do that again. That was the most insane experience ever. And now he's only 3 months old. And I'm like, yeah, it wasn't that bad. It was bad, but it wasn't that bad. I mean, I think our brains are totally wired to forget pain and forget, like, the harrowing experience of it all. I don't even know if that made sense. Like, did I explain that I got a second epidural and it worked? I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, the moral of the story is that I got this guy. He came out. He was 6 pounds, 12 ounces, 20 inches long on July 15th. We named him Julian. Hi, buddy. And I think he actually pooped while I was making this video. Oh, he did. Did you poop? Yeah, I gotta change him. Anyway, that's his birth story. Thanks for watching. Love you. Please subscribe for more videos. I hope to make many more about me and him, I guess, and our family.